I live in a modest community, perhaps 5K individuals. I've just lived here for the past 5 years while doing college and carry on with a really dull life. Obviously, in no way like this has at any point truly happened to me, and I don't know what other place to post. I live in a little condo on the finish of the impasse road. I truly do have a vehicle, yet since my work, cheap food, is just a brief leave, I for the most part stroll to work, particularly with how gas has gotten nowadays. However long I've resided here, there's forever been one house I've needed to stroll past. Soon after getting off my impasse road and turning onto another street, there's a stunning, gigantic red house. I'd portray it as mid-20th 100 years. However, it very well may be more established. As I said, it's red, a dull maroon explicitly. The framing is old yet in capable hands. It has cream-shaded siding, dark shingles, 2-story, the typical stuff you find in a little rural town. I've generally adored the person it has. The front of the house has an enormous patio, and the actual house is somewhat clouded by a fairly huge tree next to the carport. Business as usual, or on the other hand, so I thought. Each time I stroll by the house, there's a more established lady sitting on the patio on a wooden recliner. She really appears to be a caring soul, and when I initially began my standard 3 or so quite a while back, she'd constantly wave at me. I got into the propensity for waving back out of courteousness from the start, yet it genuinely became something I anticipated. But there were a ton of times I wasn't paying attention to music on the stroll, rather basically taking in the sounds around me. On those days, I could hear the wood on wood squeaking, and she would frequently express something to me. I think hi, however, I would never fully hear her. I'd constantly express greetings back. Obviously, in the end, about a year prior, we'd trade a couple of words, and I'd try and stroll on that side of the road despite the fact that it implied going across the street as needed be. We'd trade the standard decent climate today stuff, whatnot, and keeping in mind that she wouldn't talk a lot back, I very much preferred our corporations in general, recollecting it. I don't think there was a solitary time she wasn't out there. I need to think she preferred it as much as me. I'm as yet not certain her name, but rather I could undoubtedly perceive her. Her silver hair was generally up in a bun, and she was quite often wearing a dim, fleece cloak or pullover thingy to keep warm even in the late spring. Things changed about 7 days prior. I've gotten tired of living in a small, dingy apartment, and now that I'm out of university and it looks like the local high school wants to hire me, I figured I should look for an actual house. I have enough saved up to, at least. So for the past month, I've been keeping an eye on the local housing market for anything that suits me, though it's pretty barren right now. That's when I saw it. A listing for 27 Fairview Lane, a listing for her house. At first, I was a little sad she was selling the place. Then I actually opened the listing. The house was destroyed. Its windows were barricaded. Walls were discolored and dark. A large portion of the siding and trim were tumbled off. A huge piece of the roof had fallen in. The tree was wilted and dead, and the grass was brown and dry. The house I'd respected regularly for quite a long time was very surprising. At first I overreacted. I was concerned that something had occurred, and very quickly, I ran to the max out of my condo. I don't know why I was so moved. However, I was truly afraid for her. I ran down my street, turned the corner, and halted abruptly. The house was like it had been forever. Lovely, impeccably kept up with. Is it safe to say that I was off base? Perhaps they were old pictures, I thought. I went ahead and took my telephone out of my pocket and started to pull up the promotion. And when I looked the photographs were time-stamped from a month ago. At the point when I thought back, I saw her there, shaking, as usual. But this time was unique. At the point when our eyes locked, her grin, which had forever been that of a sort of old woman, gradually started to develop, crawling up to where the edges of her lips were practically interfering with her eye attachments. Her eyes had likewise shot totally open, and I could hear a weak snickering from her bearing. Her shaking got speed, and she started to brutally shoot to and fro, quickly enough that any ordinary individual's neck would give out. The squeak, squeak, squeak of the wood was practically stunning, and following a little while she halted. I promised to God. I squinted, and when my eyes were open again, she had evaporated. The house had turned into a similar bad dream I had found in the promotions, horrible and evil in style. I remained there for a couple of moments, confused. I have never been struck like a deer in headlights previously, yet that really frightened me. Ultimately, I just returned home. I needed to explore further. However, something told me, assuming I ventured foot on that property, that terrible things would occur. From that point forward, I've scarcely dozed. Each time I shut my eyes, I see her face, her twisted grin, her fierce shaking this way and that. Christ, it resembled something out of a thriller. Yet again, starting there forward, I didn't see her. Not there, in any event. My standard walks around work were walking around the unwanted shell of a house. In my spare energy at work, since truly I was too creeped out to do it at home, I would search for anything in regards to the house. Recently I realized the reason why it looks the manner in which it does. I got it torched in 2002, and the family never sold it. One individual passed on in that fire, and the police administered it self-destruction by torching. I couldn't figure out anything about who passed on there, yet I assume I know. In the wake of finding this and heading back home, I saw her once more, not at the house. She was remaining toward the finish of my road. At the point when I saw her, and that gigantic smile, I felt my heart stop. I ran as quickly I could rear up to my condo and locked the entryways and the windows. I figured out how to persuade myself that I envisioned it in my restless state, yet now, not so much. That is on the grounds that I know she's here at this point. I didn't see her today, and it was a generally considered common day. I returned home around 45 minutes prior, at 9 p.m. What's more, since I returned home, I could feel her eyes on me. I started composing this to attempt to get a handle on it. Music playing in my earphones. Be that as it may, I can hear her. My left side is straightforwardly against a window, and I can fucking hear her. She's outside my window at this moment. The chuckling, the squeaking of old wood as she rockets this way and that, like a hard toy of some kind. She's in that general area, and I'm too terrified to even consider looking.